Today I will be discussing on the topic of wind systems. We all know that wind means horizontal movement of the air. But when air moves vertically, that refers air currents. Now let's start with the types of winds. So there are mainly four types of winds. One is planetary winds or permanent winds. Next is periodic winds, then local winds and variable winds. So what is planetary winds or permanent winds? So these are known as prevailing winds also. These winds blow over the vast areas of the continents and the ocean throughout the year and in a particular direction. That is why it is a planetary winds. Now next is periodic winds. What is periodic winds? Periodic winds means the wind which changes its direction periodically with the changes of the season. Next is local winds. So local winds, obviously, it is confined in a small area and maybe the different in temperature and the pressure conditions of these local areas, this local wind develop. And the last one is variable winds. Variable winds, we will not find any particular direction. It blows in any direction and their direction varies with the movement of the pressure systems. It means these winds are related to pressure systems and these winds also blow in a small areas. Now planetary winds are divided into three types: the trade winds, the westerlies and the polar winds. Before proceeding to the trade winds, we need to remember few points. First point is winds always blow from high pressure area to low pressure area. That is most important point. Second is due to the rotation of the earth, winds do not cross the isobars. It means instead of blowing straight path, it deflects from its original path. And this is known as Coriolis force or Coriolis effect. And due to this Coriolis force, wind deflects to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere. This concept was developed by W. Ferrel in 1855 and this is known as Ferrel's law. Now come to trade winds. Now the winds which blow from subtropical high pressure zone to equatorial low pressure zone in both the hemisphere, that is known as trade winds. Trade does not means commerce or business over here. The word trade has been derived from German word which means track. It means to blow constantly and steadily in the same direction. That is known as trade winds. So, if we see the direction of the arrows, then we will see that it is coming from northeast in the northern hemisphere and southeast in the southern hemisphere. So these winds should have blown from north to the south in the northern hemisphere and from south to the north in the southern hemisphere. But due to the Coriolis effect already which I explained, these winds deflect to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern hemisphere, and that is why it is coming from northeast in the northern hemisphere and from southeast in the southern hemisphere. Now, generally from which direction wind start blowing, depending on that, winds names are given. And as in the northern hemisphere it is coming from northeast direction, that is why its name is northeast trade wind, and in the southern hemisphere it is coming from southeast, that is why it is known as southeast trade wind. As these trade winds come from 30° north and south to equator, so gradually they become hot and dry. Thus, they do not cause much rainfall. But when they cross water bodies, it picks up lot of moisture, and when it enters into land, so in the eastern side of the continent receives a huge rainfall, but when it reaches western margin of the continents, then it becomes dry. That is why all the deserts in the tropical region are located in the western margin of the continent. Now, come to different characteristics of this trade wind. If we talk about the characteristics, so obviously we have to focus on the speed. So these trade winds follow a specific path, and its speed is about 15 to 25 meter per hour. And during the winter time, its speed is more than in summertime. Now next is they are more pronounced on the sea as compared to the land. So next is westerlies. The winds blowing from subtropical high pressure belt to subpolar low pressure belt in between 35 to 60° north and south latitudes, these winds are known as westerlies. Now come to main characteristics. First point, we can tell that the direction. So see here, these westerlies are blowing from, in the northern hemisphere, from southwest to northeast under the influence of Coriolis force. And in the southern hemisphere, it is blowing from northwest to southeast. And as it is coming from the western side, that is why it is known as westerlies. That is the first point. Now second point, since they blow from warm subtropical area or warm subtropical high pressure zone to this subpolar low pressure area, means from warm areas to cold areas. So they cause considerably rainfall, mainly in the western part of the continent, and as soon as it reaches towards the eastern part, so it remains dry. Next point, due to the occurrence of the cyclones and anticyclones in this temperate region, their flow is very much irregular and uncertain. Next point, as we know that in the southern hemisphere, vast expanse of oceans are present over there. So these westerlies are much more stronger and more constant in direction. And these westerlies are best developed between 40 to 60 south latitudes. As no obstruction is there, or very less obstruction is there, that is why its speed is very high, or we can say that the velocity of the wind is very high. Thus, they create different sounds. So, according to these sounds created by these westerlies, different latitudes are known as different names. Like at 40 latitude, it is called roaring 40s. At the 50 latitude, it is called furious 50s. And at the 60 latitude, it is called shirking 60s. Now, next come to polar winds or polar easterlies. Now these winds blowing from a polar high pressure belt towards the subpolar low pressure belts in both the hemisphere. And as it is coming from this extremely cold place or the polar region, so these winds are extremely cold winds. Now come to its direction. Say it is coming northeast to southwest in the northern hemisphere, and in the southern hemisphere it is coming from southeast towards northwest, same as trade wind's direction. Obviously under the influence of Coriolis effect. And they flow from cold areas to comparatively that warm areas, so they do not cause much rainfall over here. Now next, I could say that this wind gives birth to cyclonic condition when these westerlies, which is coming from subtropical high pressure belt, and this polar easterlies, which is coming from this polar high pressure belts. So when they converge, so over there that cyclones occurs, and obviously it is associated with a huge rainfall and that frequent changes in the weather condition. So students, I hope that you have understood what I have discussed today. So it will help you. Thank you.